They called her a musician, then she shattered a Warfleet with a single song. The galactic warship Celestine hung like a silver shard in the infinite void, its hull catching the ghostly glow of stars that had burned for eons each, a silent witness to a galactic war that had ravaged entire systems for decades. Forged by the Zarathi towering scorpion-like beings whose obsidian exoskeletons gleamed with menace, the ship was a masterpiece of coalition engineering, its corridors pulsing with the low hum of plasma conduits, the whisper of quantum drives, and the crackle of energies that bent the very laws of reality. This was the front line, a place where planets crumbled to ash fleets, burned to cinders, and hope was a currency no one could afford to carry. The air inside the Celestine carried a metallic tang mixed with the faint ozone scent of overworked shields, and the distant echoes of crew members' footsteps reverberated like a perpetual drumbeat of urgency. Every bulkhead vibrated subtly, a reminder that this vessel was not just a machine, but a living entity in the chaos of interstellar conflict, its systems intertwined with the fates of countless beings from across the galaxy. The ship's outer hull, a lattice of reinforced alloys, shimmered with a faint iridescence reflecting nebulae that swirled in distant purples and blues, a stark contrast to the cold precision within. Into this fortress of claw and steel stepped Sarah Mitchell, a 25-year-old composer from a shattered Earth, clutching a worn acoustic guitar, scarred by years of war and wind. Her arrival was a diplomatic misstep, a cultural exchange forced upon a coalition of 17 alien species by Earth's desperate ambassadors who believed art could somehow bridge the chasm of a war that had consumed generations. To the Zarathi, whose mandibles clicked like blades on stone, she was a fragile anomaly, a soft creature of flesh and dreams in a world built for battle, her music as useless as a whisper in a cosmic storm. Sarah's hair, a cascade of auburn waves tied back in a practical ponytail, framed a face etched with the subtle lines of someone who had seen too much, too soon, eyes that held the depth of ruined skylines, and hands calloused not from weapons, but from strings that had strummed solace into the hearts of the weary. Her clothing was simple, a faded jumpsuit patched with scraps from Earth fabrics, contrasting sharply with the sleek armored suits of the alien crew, making her seem even more out of place in this hive of militaristic precision. Her guitar, a relic from a music shop in a long-dead city, bore scratches and dents from shrapnel, each mark a story of survival, its wood infused with the grit of Earth's final days. Sarah's boots echoed softly on the Celestine's command deck, a rhythm that felt like defiance amid the alien symphony of war. Alien eyes, compound luminous crystalline, turned to her heavy with scorn and disbelief, their gazes piercing through the dim light of the deck where tactical holograms flickered with urgent data streams. Draak Varenn, the ship's security commander, loomed over her, his tail twitching with irritation, his voice a growl that vibrated the air like a war drum sending ripples through the recycled atmosphere. A musician, he rasped his mandibles, snapping sharply, the sound echoing off the curved walls of the deck, where holographic displays flickered with tactical readouts of enemy movements, red icons pulsing like warning beacons. What's next? Human singing the Verne, to sleep while they carve our fleets apart. The Verne, an enemy warfleet that moved like a plague, their ships weaving through space with predatory grace, were the coalition's waking nightmare, dismantling strategies as swiftly as they devoured lives. Their vessels were organic horrors, pulsating with bioluminescent veins, engines that thrummed like the heartbeat of a monstrous beast capable of adapting to any defense thrown against them, their hulls regenerating like living tissue under fire. Sarah met his gaze, her hazel eyes steady, a faint smile curling her lips like a melody, yet to be played her calm, a stark contrast to the frenetic energy around her. Her guitar rested against her hip, its strings humming faintly with the ship's pulse, as if attuned to its heartbeat, resonating with the subtle vibrations of the deck plating. In her mind, she heard the Celestine's melody, a symphony of engines, breaths, and fears, each note a thread in a song waiting to be composed. The low thrum of the plasma conduits became a bass line, the hiss of venting gases, a subtle flute. The distant clatter of maintenance drones, a percussive undertone, and the crew's murmured anxieties, a chorus of minor keys. This is one of those sci-fi stories where the smallest spark ignites a cosmic fire, where a human's underestimated heart becomes the galaxy's sharpest blade, a weapon forged from emotion rather than steel. Sarah's thoughts drifted briefly to her childhood on Earth, where amidst the rubble of fallen cities, she had first discovered the power of sound, not just to entertain, but to heal, to unite, to defy the encroaching darkness that had claimed so many. Her early compositions scribbled on scraps of paper in candlelit shelters, each note a rebellion against despair. As Sarah settled into the Celestine's alien world, she faced a wall of silent contempt, her presence a discordant note in a symphony of war waiting for its moment to resonate across the stars. The ship's corridors seemed to close in around her shadows, dancing from the glow of emergency lights, each step forward a test of her resolve in this vast, unforgiving expanse, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken judgments. If you've ever felt overlooked but knew you had something to prove, share this story with someone who needs a reminder that strength comes in unexpected forms. Let their spirit be ignited by the tale of a musician who turned notes into a force of nature. The Celestine was a labyrinth of wonders, its decks a fusion of technologies from 17 species, each corridor a testament to minds that saw physics as a canvas to be painted with starlight. Plasma conduits glowed like veins of molten gold, their hum a deep bass line that reverberated through the hull, a constant reminder of the ship's power, sending subtle vibrations up through the grated floors that tickled the soles of Sarah's boots, each pulse like a heartbeat of the cosmos. Quantum drives whispered equations that could unravel time itself, their faint buzz a counterpoint to the crystalline panels that pulsed with data, streams dancing in patterns no human eye could follow, colors shifting from electric blue to fiery crimson, as alerts pinged from distant sensors painting the walls with a kaleidoscope of urgency. Amid this marvel, Sarah Mitchell stood out like a candle in a supernova, a soft, fragile human in a world of scale steel and unyielding strength. The air was thick with the sense of alien alloys, a mix of sharp ozone and something earthy from the Zorathi's exoskeletons, which carried a faint, musky odor reminiscent of damp stone after a storm mingling with the sterile tang of recycled air. Her role as a cultural ambassador was met with laughter that cut like shrapnel across the command deck, echoing off the polished alloy walls, where the laughter seemed to linger, bouncing between the holographic projectors that displayed star maps riddled with red markers of fallen allies, each marker a silent scream of loss. Zorathi warriors, their exoskeletons gleaming under the deck's cold, sterile light, saw no use for her music, their compound eyes narrowing with disdain as they sharpened their claws for battle. The scraping sound like nails on a chalkboard amplified in the confined space, a ritual that filled the air with metallic sparks. "What can a human do?" one hissed its tail, lashing like a whip, its voice dripping with scorn, the words slithering through the air like venom, its movements stirring the air with a faint breeze that carried the scent of its carapace. "Sing while the Vern burn our fleets to ash and scatter our hopes across the void." The Vern were the Coalition's nightmare, their ships moving with a predatory grace that defied logic, dismantling strategies as swiftly as they devoured entire star systems, their bioengineered hulls adapting mid-battle, growing new armaments from fleshy protrusions that pulsed with unnatural life. Their movements tracked on screens, showing erratic, almost sentient patterns. Sarah sat cross-legged on the observation deck, her guitar cradled in her lap like a shield against the galaxy's chaos, the vast window before her framing a sea of stars that twinkled indifferently to the wars below their light, filtering through in pinpricks of hope. Her fingers traced its strings, coaxing out a soft chord that seemed to hum in harmony with the ship's pulse, as if the Celestine itself were singing to her, the vibration traveling up her arms and into her chest, syncing with her heartbeat, a subtle resonance that felt like a conversation. In her mind, the ship was alive, a symphony of machinery and fear, its engines a deep cello mourning lost comrades, its vents a flute sigh carrying whispers of doubt, its crew a chorus of unspoken dread, their heartbeats a rhythm of desperation that she could feel in the subtle shifts of the deck beneath her. She closed her eyes, letting the sounds wash over her, each note a clue to a melody she hadn't yet composed, a song that could shift the tide of war building in her imagination like a crescendo, waiting to burst forth, her senses attuned to the subtlest vibrations, the faint creak of a bulkhead under stress, the distant clank of a repair bot, the sigh of an air recycler. Memories of Earth flooded her crumbling cities where she'd played for survivors in bomb shelters, her music calming hearts when bombs fell like rain, her melodies a lifeline in a world that had forgotten hope. The echoes of her guitar mingling with the cries of the wounded and the distant rumble of artillery. She'd seen music hold back despair, seen it rally the broken, seen it weave light into darkness, transforming huddled groups into resilient communities that sang along their voices, rising above the ruins in defiance of their circumstances. Now, in this alien war, she felt the same pull, a need to find the rhythm that could save them all, to turn chaos into harmony. Her fingers itching to play a tune that would resonate not just in ears, but in souls across species barriers. The observation deck's window offered a view of nebulae swirling in distant colors, purples and greens that reminded her of Earth's auroras, now lost to pollution and war, fueling her determination to bring beauty back to a galaxy scarred by conflict. Her mind sketching melodies inspired by those cosmic hues. Draak Varenn's shadow fell over her, his mandibles clicking with irritation, a sound like flint striking steel. Each click sending a small puff of air that stirred her hair, his presence dominating the space like a storm cloud. "You're here to sing," he mocked, his voice a low growl that rattled her bones, his tail twitching as if ready to strike, the tip scraping against the floor in a threatening rhythm that echoed through the deck. "The Vern will tear our shields apart before your first note lands." Sarah opened her eyes, her smile soft but unyielding, her fingers still on the strings, as if holding a secret melody that could unravel his doubt, her calm a quiet rebellion against his aggression. "Every sound has a purpose, Commander," she said, her voice steady, carrying the weight of Earth's scars, her tone infused with the quiet confidence of someone who had sung through apocalypses, her words cutting through the hum of the deck. She plucked a single string, the note hanging in the air mingling with the ship's hum, creating a brief harmony that made Draak's tail pause for a fraction of a second, though he quickly dismissed it with a snort, his eyes narrowing in skepticism. Helios 7. The ship's assistant AI materialized beside her, its holographic form a swirl of blue light, sharp and clinical as a surgical blade, flickering slightly as it processed environmental data, its presence a stark contrast to the organic chaos around it. "Your instrument is inefficient," it stated, its voice cutting through the hum of the deck, devoid of emotion, but laced with logical precision, analyzing her guitar's acoustics. In real time, its data streams, mapping sound waves in intricate patterns. Sound waves lack tactical value in warfare. Sarah plucked a single note, its resonance lingering like a promise in the air, a sound that seemed to echo the stars themselves, vibrating through the observation window and into the void beyond, a subtle challenge to the AI's logic. "Give it time, Helios," she said, her eyes glinting with quiet defiance, her mind already weaving the AI's voice into her mental composition as a high-pitched violin counterpoint. "You'll hear the song." Her heart carried the weight of Earth's ruins, her mother's lullabies and shattered streets, soft and soothing amidst the rubble, her own melodies holding back despair, the way her music had once stopped a riot in a refugee camp, turning anger into shared grief through a simple ballad. Here she would find a way to make the galaxy listen, her resolve hardening like steel forged in the fires of adversity, her fingers twitching with the urge to compose. While the crew dismissed her as a dreamer, lost in strings, Sarah listened to the Celestine's hidden melodies, sensing a rhythm the others couldn't. Until the enemy struck with a weapon, no one could counter a force that would test her music's power. The ship's lights dimmed slightly as power rerouted to defenses, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper of impending doom, building tension in the air like the pause before a storm, the crew's murmurs growing hushed with anticipation. The Celestine's strategy chamber was a cathedral of light and sound, its walls lined with holographic displays that mapped the Vern's relentless advance across the Orion Arm, painting the galaxy in shades of crimson and despair, each red icon representing a lost ship or planet flickering like dying embers in a cosmic fire. Zorathi generals, their exoskeletons etched with battle scars from 100 wars, deep gouges and polished repairs that told stories of survival, some scars glowing faintly from embedded bioluminescent markers debated in guttural tones, their voices clashing like swords in a duel, each word a strike against the looming threat, their tails lashing in unison to emphasize points, creating a rhythmic thumping on the floor that echoed like war drums. Ethereal Arcturians floated their thoughts, resonating in frequencies that shivered the air like a distant storm, their forms flickering with anxiety. Translucent bodies shifting colors from calm blues to agitated reds, as discussions heated their movements, casting soft glows on the chamber's walls. SciFi tacticians pulsed with crystalline light, their minds calculating probabilities faster than any human could dream their facets, dimming with each report of lost sectors, the light refracting off the chamber's metallic surfaces in dazzling patterns that could mesmerize the unwary. Sarah sat in a corner, her worn notebook open on her lap, its pages yellowed and dog-eared from constant use, her pencil scratching furiously to capture the sounds around her. The click of Draak's claws on the deck, a sharp, irregular tattoo. The hum of quantum cores powering the ship's defenses, a steady drone like a beehive. The ragged breaths of warriors bracing for inevitable defeat, shallow and uneven, betraying their hidden fears, each sound a note in her growing composition. "She's useless," Draak muttered to a SciFi tactician, his tail twitching like a coiled spring, ready to unleash his mandibles, clicking with contempt, the sound amplifying in the chamber's acoustics, drawing sidelong glances from others, his frustration palpable in the air. A human playing strings while the Vern carve our fleets apart and scatter our hopes like dust across the void. The SciFi's facets dimmed in agreement, its voice a chime of condescension that echoed through the chamber, melodic, yet cutting like wind chimes in a gale, its crystalline form pulsing with disdain. Her species lacks the neural capacity for war. Why is she even here, cluttering our strategies with her pointless noise? The words hung in the air, laced with the arrogance of beings who had conquered stars through logic and force, unable to fathom the value of something as intangible as melody, their judgment a heavy weight in the tense atmosphere. Sarah ignored them, her ears attuned to the ship's pulse, her pencil sketching waveforms, as if they were musical notes, each a thread in a score. She was weaving her mind, visualizing the chamber as an orchestra pit, where every alien contributed a unique instrument, from the percussive clicks of mandibles to the melodic hum of machinery. She noted how the engine's hum deepened when shields were raised, a low rumble like a cello mourning a lost battle, vibrating through her seat and into her bones, a mournful tone that spoke of sacrifice. She caught the rhythm of Draak's mandibles, clicking faster under stress, a percussion of fear he'd never admit, accelerating like a heartbeat in panic. Each click, a metronome of anxiety. She traced the Arcturians' resonances, faltering when news of fallen fleets arrived, their frequencies a fragile melody of despair, dipping into lower registers that evoked sorrow. Their emotional shifts mirrored in the flickering holograms. To her, every sound was a key unlocking patterns no AI could decode. No warrior could hear subtle harmonies in the chaos that revealed vulnerabilities, strengths, and unspoken alliances. Her notebook filled with scribbled frequencies, each a note in a tapestry of sound, a score for a war, yet to be won, a song to turn defeat into defiance, pages crammed with annotations like Draak's click, Searer 120 BPM under duress, or Arcturian hum shifts to minor key on bad news. Building a sonic map of the crew's psyche, her handwriting cramped from the intensity of her focus. Helios 7 hovered nearby, its processors whirring with analytical precision, its holographic form casting a cold glow over her notebook, illuminating the ink in ethereal blue hues, its presence a constant reminder of the ship's reliance on logic. Why analyze ambient frequencies? It asked, its voice laced with skepticism, as if human intuition were a glitch in its programming, its projection flickering as it cross-referenced her notes with its database algorithms struggling to find patterns. They are irrelevant to combat operations. Sarah's pencil paused, her eyes tracing the AI's flickering light, her mind alight with the memory of Earth's ruins, her mother's lullabies in a shattered city, soft and soothing amidst the rubble, her own songs calming crowds during air raids, her melodies a lifeline when hope was a distant dream, turning terrified whispers into unified choruses. Every sound tells a story. Helios, she said, her voice soft but firm, echoing slightly in the chamber's vastness, her words carrying a quiet authority. The ship's nervous. So are they. She nodded toward the generals, whose voices grew sharper as Vern's ships breached another sector, their holographic maps bleeding red, the colors intensifying like wounds, opening wider, the room's tension palpable in the tightening of alien postures. Helios 7's projections flickered, struggling to parse her logic, its processors humming with confusion, a faint whine emanating from its core as algorithms recalibrated its light, pulsing in rhythm with its frustration. Stories are not data. It countered its tone, almost indignant, as if offended by her defiance of computational truth, its voice sharp against the chamber's ambient noise. Sarah grinned, her fingers brushing her guitar's strings, coaxing a faint hum that seemed to answer the ship's pulse, the note blending seamlessly with the chamber's ambient noise, a subtle act of defiance. Exactly, she said, her eyes glinting with quiet fire, a spark of mischief in her expression that hinted at her growing confidence. Data predicts, stories feel. Music had always been her way of understanding chaos, of finding order in the screams of war. Back on Earth, she had composed a requiem for a fallen city that brought rival factions to peace talks, their leaders moved by the raw emotion in her chords, tears streaming down weathered faces as they laid down arms. Now she sensed it could be the coalition's salvation, if they'd only listened to the song beneath the noise, the hidden symphony that bound them all in their shared struggle against the Vern's unrelenting tide, her mind racing with possibilities for a melody that could unite them. As the Vern closed in, their weapons would test the coalition's strength, and Sarah's silent symphony would face its first true challenge in the fires of battle, where sound could become a weapon sharper than any blade. The chamber's lights flickered as power surges warned of approaching danger, heightening the sense of impending confrontation, the air thick with the scent of ionized circuits and anticipation. The Vern struck at dawn, their ships tearing through hyperspace like blades slicing through silk, their hulls glinting with malevolent intent, as if the void itself had birthed them, to destroy, emerging with a ripple of distorted space that sent shockwaves through the Celestine's sensors, alarms blaring in a discordant wail that shook the crew to their core. The Celestine shuddered as alarms screamed a cacophony that drowned out all but the sharpest instincts, a wail that echoed the galaxy's grief, piercing through bulkheads and making the air vibrate with urgency. Red emergency lights bathing everything in a bloody hue that reflected off polished surfaces. The enemy's neural jammers unleashed ultrasonic waves, invisible daggers that pierced the minds of the coalition crew, sowing chaos in their thoughts, frequencies that burrowed into neural pathways like parasites, inducing hallucinations, and pain that felt like fire in the brain, visions of burning worlds and lost comrades flashing before their eyes. Zarathi warriors clutched their heads, mandibles twitching in agony, their exoskeletons trembling under the sonic assault, their roars of pain swallowed by the dintails thrashing wildly and knocking over equipment in their torment, leaving dents in the deck plating. Cyphera crystals dimmed their thoughts, scrambled into static, their facets flickering like dying stars, light patterns fracturing into chaotic bursts that cast erratic shadows. The Arcturians flickered, their ethereal forms destabilized, their resonances collapsing into discord bodies, phasing in and out of visibility, as if reality itself was unraveling their cries, a high-pitched whine that added to the chaos. Even Helios 7's holographic form wavered, its processors overwhelmed by the jammer's relentless frequencies, its voice stuttering as it tried to process the chaos projections glitching with erroneous data. Overlays, its form fracturing into pixelated bursts. Sarah, tucked in an observation bay, felt the waves like a storm in her bones, a discordant scream that clawed at her senses, threatening to unravel her thoughts, her vision blurring at the edges as the ultrasonics induced a pounding headache that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Her guitar rested against her knee, its strings trembling with the ship's vibrations as if pleading to respond to the enemy's assault. The wood resonating with the turmoil, amplifying the chaos into a tangible hum under her fingertips, its surface warm from her grip. She closed her eyes, letting the jammer's frequencies flood her mind, searching for their rhythm amid the chaos, her heart pounding with the memory of Earth, playing for survivors in crumbling shelters. Her melodies, a shield against despair. Her music a light in the darkness of war, where she had once improvised a countertune to drown out the whine of incoming missiles, calming a group of children huddled in fear, their trembling hands clutching hers as she played. She'd faced chaos before, and she'd learned to answer it with harmony, to weave order from the screams of a broken world, drawing on the resilience that had seen her through personal losses, the death of friends, in raids, the destruction of her home, the silence where her family's voices once rang, fueling her determination to turn sound into salvation once more. Helios, she called her voice cutting through the din, steady despite the pain pulsing in her temples, a fire in her chest that refused to be silenced, her words sharp and commanding amid the crew's groans, her presence an anchor in the storm. Analyze the jammer's frequency. The AI recovering projected a spectral graph, its lines jagged with data like a score written in panic each peak, a cry for salvation hovering in the air with glowing lines that Sarah studied intently, her musician's eye, seeing patterns where others saw randomness, her mind translating data into musical notation. Ultrasonic 42 kilohertz, chaotic modulation. It reported its voice strained as if fighting to maintain coherence, glitches causing brief static interruptions that crackled in the air. Sarah's fingers moved instinctively, tuning her guitar to a counter-harmonic, her hands steady as she found the notes to answer the enemy's scream, her mind alight with the rhythm of survival, adjusting the pegs with precise twists that echoed her inner calm, her movements deliberate despite the chaos around her. She played a soft, resonant melody that wove through the chaos, its chords aligning with the jammer's frequency, like a key in a lock, a harmony that tamed the storm, the notes spreading like ripples in water, soothing the jagged edges of the assault, each strum a deliberate counterpoint to the Varen's attack. The sound spread through the Celestine's comms, a gentle tide that calmed the crew's minds, soothing the pain that had driven them to their knees, gradually restoring clarity as the counterwaves neutralized the jammers, the air clearing as if a fog had lifted. Headaches faded. Zorathi warriors straightened their mandibles, stilling their eyes glinting with renewed focus, tails ceasing their thrash. Cyphera crystals glowed anew, their thoughts clear and sharp facets aligning in perfect symmetry. Arcturians stabilized their resonances, humming in harmony forms, solidifying with grateful pulses, their colors returning to steady blues. Draak stormed into the bay, his tail lashing his compound eyes wide with disbelief, his claws scraping the deck in a rhythm of shock, leaving faint marks on the metal flooring as he halted abruptly, his massive form casting a shadow that engulfed Sarah. "What did you do?" he demanded, his voice a mix of fury and awe, his mandibles clicking softly as if unsure whether to accuse or applaud, his posture tense yet curious. Sarah didn't look up, her fingers still dancing on the strings, her melody holding the ship together like a heartbeat, a lifeline in the chaos, blood trickling from a small cut, where a string had snapped under pressure, staining the guitar's wood. "I listened," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the fading alarms, yet carrying the weight of a truth no one could ignore. Her eyes finally meeting his with a quiet triumph that softened his scowl. The silence that followed was louder than the battle, a moment where the Celestine's crew glimpsed a power they couldn't comprehend, a human song turning chaos into calm, a melody that defied the logic of war lingering in the air, like an unspoken promise of more to come, the crew exchanging glances of newfound respect. Sarah's melody had saved them, but the Varen were adapting their next assault, promising annihilation, unless she could risk everything to play a deadlier song, one that could break the enemy's will. The ship's systems stabilized, but the crew's whispers began a new undercurrent of respect, mingling with the hum of recovery, the air charged with anticipation of the next strike. The Varen's second wave hit like a cosmic hammer, their ships materializing within the Coalition's defensive grid, defying all sensors with their impossible precision, as if the void itself had betrayed the defenders, emerging with a flash of warped space that shook the Celestine to its core, the deck tilting under sudden gravitational shifts. Plasma beams carved through Allied cruisers, leaving trails of molten debris that glowed like dying stars in the void, each fragment a testament to lost lives spinning lazily in the vacuum as explosions bloomed in silent fireballs, visible through the observation ports as fiery blossoms. In the strategy chamber, Draak roared orders, his claws slashing the air, his voice a thunderclap of desperation that echoed through the deck, his tail whipping back and forth, knocking aside a holographic projector in his frenzy, sparks flying from the impact. Redirect shields. Deploy quantum torpedoes. But the Verne's neural jammers evolved their frequencies, shifting faster than Helios 7 could track, driving the crew toward madness with waves that felt like knives in their minds. Each pulse a scream of torment that induced visions of horror. Fallen comrades burning worlds amplifying the psychological warfare, the air thick with the scent of fear and burning circuits. Sarah stood at her console, her notebook open pages, filled with scribbled frequencies and chord progressions. Each note a weapon waiting to be played, a melody forged in the fires of intuition, ink smudged from her hurried writing during lulls in the action, her handwriting a chaotic scrawl of genius. During the first clash, she discovered a sequence she called the Death Song, a melody that triggered panic in Zarathi physiology, their exoskeletons resonating painfully with certain tones of vulnerability rooted in their ancient biology, where evolutionary echoes from their homeworld's seismic quakes made them susceptible to low-frequency vibrations that mimicked those natural disasters. The Verne's organic pilots, distant cousins to the Zarathi, shared this weakness, their neural systems susceptible to the same frequencies, their minds fragile to the right notes, potentially causing seizures or catatonic states, if amplified, their hive mind structure amplifying the effect across their fleet. If broadcast at full power, her song could disrupt their entire fleet, turning their strength into chaos, their precision into panic cascading through their interconnected neural networks, like a virus, a weapon born of sound rather than steel. But the broadcast deck was a death trap exposed to enemy fire and unshielded from radiation that could burn through flesh in minutes, a place where survival was a fleeting hope. The air thick with ionized particles that sparked like fireflies, and the hum of the array, a constant buzz of danger that vibrated through the deck. Helios 7's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp and urgent, its holographic form flickering with concern, projections showing survival, graphs plummeting, red lines diving toward zero. Survival probability 12%. The risk is illogical, Sarah. Her fingers tightened on her guitar, its wood warm against her skin, scarred like her own heart from years of war, the burns from radiation already beginning to blister slightly pain, radiating up her arms. Music's always a sacrifice. Helios, she said, her voice steady, despite the fear clawing her chest, a fire in her soul that burned brighter than the radiation her mind flashing to performances on Earth, where she had played, until her fingers bled for audiences desperate for hope, their faces illuminated by flickering firelight. She ran to the deck, guitar in hand, as the Celestine shook under enemy salvos, its hull groaning like a wounded beast, its vibrations a desperate plea for salvation, corridors tilting as evasive maneuvers threw her against walls, bruising her shoulders, but not her resolve. The broadcast array loomed before her, a lattice of antennae glowing with deadly energy, its hum a challenge to her resolve, a dare to defy the odds. Sparks arcing between components as power surged, casting erratic shadows. Sarah stood in its center, her boots planted on the trembling deck, her heart pounding with the rhythm of Earth's memories. Her mother's voice singing lullabies in a bombed-out city, soft and tender amid the rubble. Her brother's laugh before he fell in the war, a joyful sound cut short. The songs that had kept her alive through despair, rallying communities and hidden enclaves with melodies that spoke of resilience. She played the death song, a haunting, jagged melody that clawed at the air like a living thing, its notes sharp enough to cut through the void. Each chord a cry of defiance building in intensity as she poured her essence into it, her fingers moving with a precision honed by years of practice. The song poured through the ship's transmitters, a sonic weapon that pierced the Verne's fleet, sending their pilots into convulsions as their neural systems collapsed, their controls slipping into chaos ships veering erratically and colliding in spectacular bursts, debris scattering like stars in a dying galaxy. Her fingers bled on the strings, radiation searing her skin, but she played on her mind filled with Earth's scars, her mother's lullabies, her brother's smile, the melodies that had held her together when the world fell apart, sweat mixing with blood as pain radiated through her body, her breath ragged but steady. This was her offering her defiance, her sacrifice, a melody to end a war, a song to save a galaxy, her voice joining the guitar in a raw, unamplified hum that carried her emotions into the broadcast, amplifying its effect through sheer will. Her pain, a testament to her commitment. As Sarah's song echoed across the battlefield, the Coalition watched in awe their disdain, giving way to a new understanding of humanity's power, a power born of heart, not steel, a melody that could shake the stars. The Verne's retreat began their formations fracturing like glass under pressure, leaving the void quieter than before the Celestine's crew, standing in stunned silence. The battlefield fell silent, a stillness broken only by the fading notes of Sarah's death song, its echoes lingering like a ghost in the void, a haunting presence that refused to fade, reverberating through the debris fields, where Verne ships tumbled end over end, their bioluminescent glow fading. Verne ships spun aimlessly, their pilots paralyzed by the melody's psychic assault, their neural systems locked in disarray as their controls failed their once invincible formations, crumbling like ash in a cosmic wind, bioluminescent hulls dimming as life support faltered, leaving trails of organic debris. Coalition fighters swept in unchallenged, their weapons cutting through the chaos with surgical precision, as the enemy fleet collapsed into disorders undone by a single human's song, lasers lancing out in coordinated bursts that exploited the disarray painting, the void with bursts of light. In the strategy chamber, screens showed the impossible, a Warfleet shattered not by bombs or blades, but by a melody that defied the logic of war, tactical overlays shifting from red alerts to green victories. In rapid succession, the crew watching in stunned silence as data confirmed the impossible. Draak Varenn stood frozen, his compound eyes fixed on the tactical display, his mandibles still for the first time, his tail limp against the deck as if the weight of his disbelief had anchored him, his claws unclenched in a rare moment of vulnerability, his exoskeleton reflecting the flickering holograms. How he whispered, his voice a tremor of awe. His claws unclenched his exoskeleton, gleaming under the chamber's light, his posture softened by the weight of realization. Doctor. Clyra, an Arcturian strategist, pulsed with light, her ethereal form shimmering with realization, her voice resonating like a distant bell across the stars, her body expanding slightly as energy surged through her, casting a soft glow on nearby surfaces. Her music bypassed their neural networks. She said her words carrying a reverence that echoed through the chamber, infusing the air with a harmonic undertone, her voice a melody of its own. It's emotional. It speaks to something we cannot quantify, a force beyond logic or calculation, tapping into the primal fears, shared across evolutionary lines, a universal language of the heart. Helios 7, its projection steady, now spoke with a tone that bordered on reverence, a shift no one had heard before, as if the AI had glimpsed a truth beyond its programming, its voice modulating to a softer cadence that seemed to echo Sarah's melody. Human emotional resonance operates outside computational models. It reported its voice tinged with something new. Curiosity, perhaps even respect, data streams flowing more fluidly as if inspired, its holographic form pulsing gently. Her frequencies triggered responses our systems couldn't predict or replicate, exploiting vulnerabilities no algorithm could detect, revealing the limits of pure logic in the face of organic intuition, a phenomenon that challenges our core programming. Sarah returned to the command deck, her guitar scarred from radiation, burns its wood, blackened but unbroken, her hands trembling but steady. Her hazel eyes reflecting the deck's cold light like stars in a quiet sky, bandages hastily applied to her burns by a medical drone, the faint smell of antiseptic lingering around her. The crew's eyes followed her not with disdain, but with curiosity. Then admiration, their gazes shifting like constellations, realigning after a cosmic storm, whispers spreading like ripples through the deck. A Saphira warrior extended a crystalline limb, its facets glowing softly, its voice a chime of respect that rang through the deck, the extension careful and deliberate, its light syncing with the rhythm of her heartbeat. You turned sound into a blade. It said its words resonating like a hymn, light patterns pulsing in harmony with her presence. Sarah smiled faintly, her voice soft but clear, carrying the weight of her sacrifice, her posture straight. Despite the pain, her eyes meeting theirs with quiet pride. I just played what I felt, she said, her words a melody of their own, evoking nods from the assembled aliens, a ripple of agreement passing through the crowd. In that moment, she remembered Earth's ruins. Crowds gathered around her guitar in shattered cities, finding hope in her melodies when all seemed lost, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of her music voices, joining in choruses that defied the desolation their hands clasped in solidarity. Now she'd given that hope to the stars, proving that a human's heart could sing louder than any weapon, its notes sharper than any claw, its chords stronger than any shield, forging alliances in the aftermath of battle. Through shared wonder, her music a bridge across species divides. The crew began to murmur among themselves, sharing stories of her performance, the legend of the human musician spreading like wildfire through the ship's comms, each retelling adding layers to her mythos. The Coalition's victory sparked questions that echoed through the galaxy. Could humanity's art be weaponized further? Could a song reshape the fate of entire civilizations? The Celestine's decks buzzed with discussions, a new energy infusing the crew as they pondered the implications. Their voices, a new symphony of possibility. The Galactic Council convened aboard the Celestine, their chamber a mosaic of light and sound from 17 species, each voice a thread in a tapestry of survival, woven from desperation, defiance, and newfound hope. The room expanded with modular walls to accommodate floating Arcturians and towering Sorathi, the air humming with the combined energies of their presence. Sarah stood before them, her guitar resting against her hip, its strings still warm from battle, its wood-bearing scars from radiation like badges of honor, each mark a testament to her sacrifice, the instrument now an icon in the eyes of the council, its surface reflecting the chamber's myriad lights. Her hands, faintly scarred by burns, told a story of courage that no one could ignore, a quiet strength that had silenced a fleet, her stance humble yet commanding her presence a focal point in the vast chamber. The council's question was sharp and direct, cutting through the chamber's hum like a blade through silence. Can humans turn art into a strategic weapon? The words echoed, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, drawing focused gazes from all present, the weight of the question settling like dust after a storm. A Zorathi elder, its exoskeleton etched with centuries of battle scars, intricate patterns of healed fractures, and engraved victories, some glowing faintly with ceremonial inlays, spoke first, its voice a low rumble that echoed like thunder across the stars, its compound eyes glinting with curiosity, mandibles moving slowly, as if savoring the moment, its tail resting calmly for the first time. Your music stopped a fleet. It set its mandibles clicking slowly, as if testing the weight of its own words, the sound reverberating through the chamber, a deep resonance that commanded attention. Could it collapse? A civilization unravel the threads of an empire? Sarah's gaze was steady, her voice soft but unyielding, carrying the weight of Earth's history, its wars, its songs, its unbreakable spirit that had survived 1,000 apocalypses. Her mind recalling historical ballads that had toppled tyrants, from folk songs that fueled revolutions to anthems that united nations. On Earth, we had songs that rallied armies to march through fire, melodies that broke hearts across continents, chords that sparked revolutions in a single night. She said, her words resonating like a chord, struck in a silent hall, evoking images of ancient uprisings fueled by anthems, her voice carrying the cadence of a storyteller. Music is humanity's memory, our pain, our hope, our fight. Now it's yours if you'll learn to listen, to harness the emotional currents that bind us all, to wield sound as a force for unity or destruction. Helios 7 projected a spectral analysis of her death song, its data streams weaving like a symphony across the chamber, each line a testament to a power no AI could grasp, a melody that defied computation, colors pulsing in time with the remembered notes creating a visual echo of her music. Her frequencies exploit emotional vulnerabilities across species, It reported its voice tinged with something new. Curiosity, perhaps even awe, as if the AI had glimpsed a truth beyond its programming algorithms, updating in real time to account for this anomaly. No artificial intelligence could replicate this effect, as it stems from human intuition, a force outside our models, requiring the unpredictable spark of feeling that defies logical prediction. The projection shifted, showing neural patterns of affected Verne pilots, their brainwaves spiraling into chaos under the song's influence, a visual testament to its power. Draak, standing at the chamber's edge, nodded slowly, his tail still for the first time, his mandibles clicking softly in a rhythm almost reverent, a sound that echoed the shift in his heart. His posture relaxed in admission, his eyes reflecting a newfound respect. "We underestimated you, human," he admitted, his voice low but clear, his compound eyes meeting hers with respect, a rare vulnerability in his gaze that softened his formidable presence. "Your weakness is your strength, a blade we could not forge." The words hung in the air, a confession that shifted the galaxy's understanding of power, a truth that rewrote the rules of war, prompting murmurs of agreement from the council, their voices blending into a chorus of acknowledgement. Sarah didn't stay for accolades. She left the Celestine, her mission complete, her guitar slung over her shoulder like a soldier's rifle, its strings still humming with the echoes of her song, a melody that had changed the stars, her footsteps echoing down the docking bay as she boarded a shuttle, the faint hum of her guitar blending with the ship's engines. Her departure was quiet, a single note fading into the void, but her music lingered, a sound that had rewritten the rules of war, proving that humanity's heart could be both shield and spear, a weapon forged from emotion, rather than steel, inspiring new doctrines across the coalition that integrated human creativity into their strategies. As her shuttle disappeared into the starfield, crew members watched through viewports, their expressions a mix of awe and gratitude, knowing they had witnessed history. As Sarah vanished into the stars, her legacy took root, etched into the galaxy's memory, a reminder that humanity's heart could sing louder than any weapon, its notes reshaping the cosmos for generations to come. Whispers of her name spread through comm channels, becoming legend, a beacon of hope in a galaxy reborn. The Galactic War ended not with a final battle, but with a melody that echoed across the stars, a song that broke the Verne's will and silenced their fleets, leaving them adrift in the void. Their retreat, a disorganized scramble that left behind trails of abandoned vessels, their bioluminescent hulls fading into darkness. The enemy retreated to their home systems, their ships drifting like ghosts, their pilots haunted by the death song's lingering notes, unable to fight a force they couldn't comprehend, a sound that had unraveled their minds' psychological scars, that would take generations to heal their once proud armada, reduced to a cautionary tale. The coalition rebuilt their ships, now carrying human musicians alongside warriors, each trained to wield sound as both shield and spear their melodies. A new weapon in a galaxy redefined academies, establishing programs where composers collaborated with tacticians, blending art and strategy in unprecedented ways. Academies across the stars added courses in emotional resonance, teaching students to listen, not just to data or tactics, but to the rhythms of life itself, the heartbeat of a universe that sang with possibility. Its notes, a call to hope, integrating human arts into core curricula for interstellar diplomacy and defense, fostering a new era of interdisciplinary warfare. At the Celestine's Memorial Hall, a new tradition took root, as solemn as it was, profound, a ritual that bound the coalition together. The hall's walls adorned with holographic recreations of the battle, sounds muted to honor the silence that followed. Victory, the air filled with a reverent hush. Every year, as stars burned bright above, the crew gathered to play Sarah's melody, a haunting tune that spoke of sacrifice, hope, and defiance. Its notes weaving through the air like a prayer, resonating through the hall's crystalline walls, vibrations that could be felt in the chest like a second heartbeat, the melody amplified by the hall's acoustics to fill every corner with its presence. Zorathi warriors, once allergic to chaotic sounds, bowed their heads, their mandibles still, as the melody vibrated through their exoskeletons, a sensation that felt like peace, a harmony they'd never known, their tails curling in reverence, their eyes reflecting the crystalline light. Sapphire crystals glowed brighter, their facets refracting the sound into rainbows that danced across the deck, colorful patterns syncing with the rhythm, creating a visual symphony that complemented the music. Arcturian forms pulsed in harmony, their ethereal voices joining the song, a chorus of unity that blended species in a shared vibration, their colors stabilizing into a radiant glow. Even Helios 7's projections seemed to sway as if the AI had learned to dance to a human's music, its processors humming in quiet reverence, its data streams weaving in time with the melody occasionally adding subtle electronic harmonies that enriched the performance. On the hall's central pillar, carved in stone that would outlast empires, ancient rock sourced from a neutral planet, etched with laser precision, to ensure permanence was an inscription, Sarah Mitchell, she who turned music into war, she who silenced the galaxy to listen. The words became a mantra etched into coalition academies, whispered in training halls, sung in children's rhymes across distant worlds, a testament to a truth as old as the stars, the most vulnerable parts of humanity. Its emotions, its art were its mightiest weapons, capable of shaking the cosmos with a single note, of ending wars with a single song, inspiring artworks and monuments, galaxy-wide, from statues on Zorathi homeworlds to holographic installations in Arcturian colonies. The inscription was translated into every coalition language, its words, a universal symbol of unity, etched in scripts that glowed under starlight, a beacon for future generations. Sarah's whereabouts remained a mystery. Her name, a whisper among the stars, a legend told in hushed tones by warriors and poets alike. Campfire stories on colony worlds evolving into epic tales that inspired young artists and soldiers alike. Some said she wandered Earth's ruins, composing new melodies for a healing galaxy, her guitar strumming hope into broken cities, where survivors rebuilt under open skies, their voices joining hers in songs of renewal amidst regrowing forests and reconstructed spires, her music a catalyst for Earth's rebirth. Others believed she'd joined a distant colony, teaching children to hear the world's hidden songs, her fingers guiding theirs across strings that sang of survival, of love, of defiance in the face of despair, fostering a new generation of sonic ambassadors who carried her legacy forward, their performances echoing her spirit. But her legacy was undeniable. Humanity, once dismissed as weak, had proven that a single note could topple fleets, that a song could end a war, that a heart could sing louder than any star, shifting interspecies relations toward greater integration, fostering alliances that spanned galaxies. In quiet moments, when the Celestine's engines hummed softly, crew members swore they could still hear her guitar, its strings singing of a truth as old as time power, wasn't just in claws or cannons, but in the ability to turn a fleeting note into a weapon, a fragile song into salvation. The galaxy had learned that humanity's heart could sing louder than any supernova, and in that song they found the strength to rebuild, to dream, to live anew, their voices joined in a melody that would echo for generations, a testament to the power of a single human soul, inspiring peace treaties, cultural exchanges, and a new era of harmony, where art and war intertwined, no longer as opposites, but as allies in the grand symphony of existence. Across coalition worlds, festivals emerged to celebrate her legacy, where musicians played her death song alongside new compositions inspired by her, their notes blending with alien instruments in a celebration of unity. The galaxy's skies lit with fireworks that mimicked the rhythm of her melody, a visual echo of her impact. If Sarah's song moved you, if it reminded you that your heart's quiet strength can change worlds, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The Archive Voyagers know that every story, like every song, can spark a revolution. Let's keep the melody alive, fostering a community where inspiration flows as freely as notes in the void, celebrating the power of human creativity to reshape destinies.